Welcome. I'm Hannah Davis, one quarter of the team that represents our Wales Trainees. Patrick Blundell and I represent South Wales, and Louise and Barbara represent our North Wales colleagues. So, firstly, congratulations for picking our amazing specialty, and secondly, for choosing to train with us in this brilliant deanery. Not that I'm biased at all. This induction is being recorded by myself and Dr. Thomas Cromarty, a PEDS PEM-Grid trainee who did the majority of his training in Wales. This slide incorporates who's involved on a professional level in our lives. First of all, we have our local HEIW, which is Health Education in Wales. They're top of the chain in Wales. They're responsible for our workforce planning, education and training. They oversee any less than full-time trainees or out-of-programme trainee experiences and applications and agreements. And they oversee study budget and relocation packages. Next, we have the Royal College of Paediatrics, and they're responsible for oversight of training, ensures training units meet standards. They set the exams and CCTs. They're responsible for the e-portfolio. They have oversight of guidance for ARCPs and training requirements, and they liaise with the GMC to ensure training standards are delivered. Next, we have the Wales Deanery itself. They allocate trainees to rotations, ensure local trainee units meet standards. They lead on ARCPs. They inform the college when trainee meets requirements for CCT. And they're the first point of call for training support, out of programme experiences, grid or less than full-time training. They give the advice and forms to be signed off. They collate LFG feedback to feed into STC meetings. Then we've got the Health Board. They're responsible for delivering training as per the RCPCH Trainee Charter. They provide education and clinical supervision, they pay your salaries, and they host faculty leads and junior-senior meetings. Then we've got the BMA. They're excellent for support and rota, contract and pay issues, and many more other issues. Then we have our trainee committees. They're supporting all of our colleagues. So locally in Wales, we have a trainee committee, which is known as the PTC, Paediatric Training Committee. And this local committee is made up of trainees who volunteer to engage and support trainees across Wales. That involves both our North and South colleagues. Members are elected by the Wales Trainees. They represent the voice of Wales trainees at the STC, which is a specialty training committee, and they provide guidance on local issues and can direct to the right person in the deanery or the health education in Wales. Then we have our National Trainee Committee, which is the RCPCH National Trainee Committee. The Trainee Committee rep is elected by all the trainees within the actual deanery, and this is via the RCPCH. There are 20 regional reps and 11 subject reps for things such as portfolio, less than full-time, start and exams. They are involved in the RCPCH work of training and assessment guidance. They sit on numerous other committees within the RCPCH as trainee voice. They share the latest updates and any changes in guidance from the RCPCH with trainees. They lead with local PAFTAs, which we'll discuss later, with trainee committees. So what does the RCPCH do? Well, their mission is to transform child health through knowledge, innovation and expertise. Our vision is a healthier future for children and young people across the world. This is a diagram of the big picture representation, and as you can see, it's formed from numerous sectors such as child health and wellbeing, education and training, members, service planning and delivery, evidence and improved practice. And you can see they take into account the views of the paediatrician, child health, and also the young people themselves. The Wales PAFTAs. So this is a Paediatric Award for Training Achievements. It is a Royal College delivered programme which tries to champion all of our amazing efforts in our regional deaneries, and those people then get put forward for national awards. Locally, we run 10 awards. This includes all the titles here based on your right hand side. So Best Training Unit, Junior Trainees, Senior Trainee, Educational Supervisors, a Motivator Award, Unsung Heroes, Allied Healthcare Workers, Nursing Awards, Innovation Awards, International Doctor Awards, and a Non-Training Doctor Award. These are nominations that we felt were important on a local level, and then any winners for the best training unit, junior trainee, senior trainee, and educational supervisor then get put forward to the national awards, and if they win there, they are presented with an award at a public event by the college itself. The trainee charter is something that the RCPCH have been working on recently, and it basically outlines what each training unit should be providing for you as a trainee within your hospital. So there should be the appropriate level of educational supervision, a teaching rota, so you get good access to teaching availability and sessions, rotas as per the BMA guidelines. There should be adequate sleep and rest conditions. There is the access to less than full-time training. They also put in factors about the training environment and the training programs themselves. More information is available on this, and this is something that all of us representatives are trying to instill. It is down to the local program director to ensure that the trainee charter is upheld as best as possible, and there is more work ongoing at present. Next is the trainee toolkit, which is by trainees for trainees. This is an absolute wealth of knowledge. This is got so much information on responsibility of training at a national level, regional level, roles of the RCPCH GMC role in your training, health board issues, patient safety and risk issues, any staffing concerns, training and educational issues, morale and teamwork in sleep, you name it. It's got information on just about everything. So this is something I would highly recommend you guys have a look at. Next is the RCPCH QI Central, which is something I've only actually recently come across myself. This is all about quality improvement. It's a sharing hub of all project ideas currently ongoing, and it's got lots of ideas and resources for QI projects available to you to, take some ideas from previous projects and put them into your local areas. And it's also got lots of learning modules available, so you can update yourself and learn new things. And there's always scope for service improvement and patient safety. This is also part of one of your domains in Reportfolio, so the earlier you get to grips with this and master it, the better off you'll be. So recently there's been lots of change in how we create our e-portfolios and how we tick off certain things. Our curriculum has totally been upgraded recently. This was part of an RCPCH Progress. It went from billions of little bullet points on pages and pages of competencies we had to do. Luckily you've joined us now when we've modernised, and we have 11 key domains. And you have to tick off certain criteria in each domain. Your e-portfolio is a guide for you about what you should tick off during your training. The RCPCH website has documents for each domain with examples of how you can actually match your experience with the competencies. There's also been a recent development, which is Progress Plus. So this is something that is proposed to come in August 2023, and basically it's just constant evolution. So 2018 we had the curriculum domains were introduced. In 2023 the Progress Plus will begin and changes us from an 8-year program to a 7-year program based on 2 tiers, which the first tier is from ST1 to ST3, and then ST4 onwards is the second higher tier. And it aims to improve training and flexibility within the rotas and the training program to give you the best training experience. We will go into more of this detail later. So resources, where would we be without some key resources? So we have opportunity to sign up to several prescriptions. One is the Milestones magazine, and then we've got the archives, which are delivered monthly if you are an RCPCH member, which I'm sure all of you are. And then there's the education and practice, which has got really good learning tools and keeps you updated. All of these, you get bombarded with lots, but there is some really good reading, and it's always good to keep yourself up to date. Then we've got the RCPCH conference, which is a brilliant occasion that happens annually, and it's a celebration of everybody's projects and a chance for everybody to learn more. The conference is normally over a couple of days. Obviously, due to COVID recently, it's been online, but you get to travel a little bit because they're always in great cities. So you get to mix the travel and learning experience all in one. Then we have the Child Protection Portal, which is obviously a really good resource, especially as you get towards your later on in your training and you get to do more of the child protection examinations and medicals. It's an absolute wealth of information, and even consultants still go through and have a little update on it from time to time. But anything you need to know about child protection, you'll find it there. Then there is online learning in the RCPCH Compass. Lots of online learning modules which helps you tick off some competencies as well. And then there's also a Paediatrics 2040, which is a group of trainees who are forecasting for the future and seeing our role and how it's going to help with child health in the future. We've also got RCPCH and Us, which is a voice for children, young people and families, and putting the doctor-patient relationship as one and advocating best for young people. In regards to communication channels in the Wales Deanery, there is plenty going on. We've got the WhatsApp group, which we can all add you to later on today if you're not already part of the group, sorry. And then we've also got a Facebook page also. So there's plenty to get involved with, and you can ask any questions in the WhatsApp group, and definitely you'll get an answer within a couple of minutes. There's always people online. Then we've got an absolutely amazing resource that a few of our trainees have been part of recently. This is the RWEN project, which is an all Wales wellbeing and educational network. This was something that was set up during COVID by our wonderful trainees, and is daily teaching that happens between 1 and 2 o'clock. It is teaching from all over Wales, and you will have teaching allocated every day. It's brilliant. There is also, because it's on Teams, we have a streaming channel, and if you've missed the brilliant teaching, you can catch up at a later date if you so require. So you've got this. This is a brilliant thing from Dan Magnus here, which is welcome to your department. 10 things we'd like you to do here. So feel comfortable. I really want you to just bed in and get as much out of your time in the Wales Deanery as you can. You will always be welcome here, and we want you here. We don't want you to ever struggle. Obviously, it's quite a daunting experience starting on a new specialty in a new area. But if you're finding anything difficult, get in touch. There is plenty of people around, even if you don't feel that you can contact people locally, as in where you're working right now. I'm always available. Get me on Messenger, on the WhatsApp group. Honestly, no problem is too big or too small. I will always help you through it. Be kind to your colleagues. We can all go through difficult things at different times in our lives, but being kind is one of those brilliant things that, if you're just having a hard day, somebody else being kind can pull you through. So always try and be as kind as you can. Be the best version of yourself at work, or at least try. It can be difficult, we've all been through hard times with recent COVID rotas, etc. So it is hard, and we all have our off days, so we do understand. But, just helping each other out, and again, being kind can make up for a lot of horrible things that happen in a day. Be gracious, especially when things are tough or under pressure. Being rude or losing your temper is bad for staff, patients, and you. It doesn't make any of us feel good when you lose your temper. So, if you feel yourself going that way, take yourself to a quiet place, talk to somebody, they'll help you get through. Key, take a break. It's easy for us on these crazy rotas sometimes, especially going into the winter now with RSV season. It's easy to forget to eat and drink, but I don't know about you, I get hangry. So if I don't eat and drink, I get miserable. So please take good breaks. Just let your colleagues know, I'm just going for a little drink and going for some food. It's much better to be hydrated and not hypoglycemic when you're on shift. Be a role model, obviously starting out now, but there'll be people you'll look up to, or people you've looked up to in the past. It's always good to have somebody that you look up to, and then in turn that you become that person. You want to model good behaviours and be a shining light to all the new ones coming after you. Smile and laugh. This is key. So I always try and have a good time at work and make people laugh, because I feel the day goes much quicker and everybody's whole feeling for the day is just uplifted. So be a doctor that you would want to treat you. I think this is really good as well. So respect what you do and where you are. Be professional at all times. Just treat people how you'd want to be treated. Enjoy what you do. You are amazing and do a very special job. In fact, I think it's the best, most special job. It is a privilege to look after children and their families, and let that bring you joy. That is so true.
My name's Tom Cromitty. I'm one of the PAEDs trainees who did all of my training in Wales, and I've just moved over to Wessex for my last year in PEM grid training. But I'm going to take you through a few of the projects that came to fruition or before the last few years whilst Asim and I were at the helm, and lots of these projects are still ongoing, well, all of them, and more than happy for you guys to get involved with them. All of the links and information can be you can get to it from the show notes, which will be available on the presentation, which you can get afterwards. There'll be a QR code there. So to start, we'll talk about Dragon Bytes. This was set up by Stacey and Asim, a couple of the PAEDs trainees. It's an amazing resource with now a team of probably verging on 10 people, growing all the time. More people can get involved to record topics that they're interested in. They release weekly podcasts on all manner of topics, from tips on different aspects of clinical and non-clinical exams, the finer aspects of renal pathology and cardiac physiology in discussions with Professor Uzan, and other topics such as child poverty and biopsychosocial models. It's all in there, and they're short, and you can listen to them whenever you like. They've got a website and a Twitter handle, which is there. Plant Wales website has been active now for probably about 6 months, and that is the Welsh website set up by one of the North Wales trainees, Joe. It's aimed to be a one-stop shop for anything revolving paediatrics in Wales. It's run by trainees, like I said, and it should have access to all of the things that are going on here, as well as the toolkit that Ceri's going to be producing later on, and all kinds of useful stuff. Trello is a free bit of software which you can download and get to some, they're called Trello boards. They've been around for a number of years. They haven't been updated more recently, but hopefully all this information is going to, and the content is going to be transitioned over to the website. But I recommend taking a look at them really quickly if there's stuff which you find interesting. The links after you create your account are, again, all in the notes here. Kaizen is the portfolio that we use for all of our documentation of development and the curriculum, which Hannah's already talked about. These are some slides made by one of the trainees in a different deanery, actually. First of all, she recommended going offline. Sometimes you can have issues when you're trying to upload them online and it doesn't work. I've not had those myself, but definitely that can happen, so it's safer to go offline and do lots of the work there and then upload them when you're ready. More drafting and less grafting, a philosophy that I've tried to kind of do a lot more of the last couple of years, realising that lots of the reflections that you do are much more impressive when you do them quite soon after the event. I often will just write kind of either some notes on a piece of paper, or preferably almost a few bullet points in the in Kaizen on the evening after it's happened, of some of the finer points and the emotions that were going through my head, and it's much easier when you come back to them to then re-get into that zone you were in, whereas if you just come back thinking, oh, there was that reflection I was going to do, you never get it. Doing little and often seems to be the key to success, not everything with 2 days before you have your ARCP deadline, and I've, again, something that I've tried to embody much more recently, and I do find it kind of makes for a much less stressful ARCP and more effective learning as you go along. Just to mention there that we've gone the curriculum changed a lot over the last few years, like Hannah said, and gone from thousands of learning outcomes and things for you to tag to more generic ones, and you just need to try and make sure you focus in on each developmental log or portfolio log has one specific learning outcome. Sure, you may be involved with a resuscitation where you wanted to focus on your communication skills, your leadership, some of the non-technical skills that happen there, and you can do that, but we'll just put each time you do it, make it a focus on one of those particular aspects. They've brought back during COVID the kind of miscellaneous, just about an experience, which is really good, and that's one that one and the reflection I use most of the time. Important to make sure that whether you have your log as public or private, so that the people can actually see it. People are busy and sometimes need reminding a few times. There's a function for reminding the assessors, as long as you've got their email address right, within Kaizen. And Mega Jagger, one of the trainees here, has made a nice PDF of what you need and all your requirements for ARCP, and you can see on there what you need to do. The person who made those slides has also made some videos which are available through the RCPCH website. Really good videos on how to do logs, because it's not always completely self-explanatory. I would highly recommend going and just watching them once before you start getting into it. Some useful email addresses that generally get responded to within kind of 2 or 3 working days. Any other business, so exams, there are reasonable adjustments, not for just exams, for work, which everyone who has specific needs should get a hold of. Study days, book them nice and early. We're going to go on to more with the study budget and everything later on. NLS and APLS have been particularly hard to get on due to the high demand after they were not running during COVID. The RCPCH website has got a load of courses, and just asking around, ask your supervisors, ask your colleagues about which courses are good to go on. Less than full time is level 3, which means you can apply for any reason, and we have a less than full time rep in the form of the consultants, who I think is still Dana in Morriston, but Evie Bridgman is one of the trainees, and she's really keen on making sure, as we should be, that the less than full-time trainees are getting the right study budget, tax codes and all that stuff. And so if you want any information from that, then get in contact with her. OOPEs and OOPTs, out of programme experience or training. These are opportunities to go and do something else for a year, and you can either get that counted towards training with an OOPT, or just an out of training year with an experience, aiming for one per trainee, but with extenuating circumstances can do more than one. And the training toolkit we already talked about. Just to highlight the focus of our care is on children, young people and their families. It's lovely to work with fantastic people like we are, but try and always bring the focus to the patient, and just remember that they're the one in front of you is the most important at that time. We do all love a good deal, I think. Well, I do anyway. And this is the totem card, which you can get, like a student card that you can get through the Royal College. I think it's £12 a year, and you can get 10% off co-op purchases and other student-y type stuff that you would do before, such as educational equipment, laptops, 10% off, that kind of stuff, which can easily save you the money that you'd spend on the card. The health service discounts can get you cash back on supermarkets and other stores. The blue light card gets you deals on all kind of high street stores. Welsh Water were doing a little bit of money back during COVID if you were washing your scrubs and using and you had a water meter. You can get money back from the government for working from home, which you can do from the Money Saving Expert website. And HMRC, all of your professional subscriptions to the Royal College, GMC, BMA can all be claimed back on through tax. I use Medic's Money. They have a website and a podcast, and they have got a link to a PDF which is kind of almost pre-filled in that you just have to put in how much you're paying, and then that just rolls over year to year. Twitter, bit of a love-hate with Twitter. Some people really go for it, like me. Other people don't fancy it. I think even if you do go for it, you end up needing a bit of detox time from time to time. I have made a whole bunch of lists, so you can copy them and add to them or not use them as you so wish, but it just gives you a load of people that are influential in that, or at least on Twitter in that particular sphere. Apps. Now my phone is particularly full of apps, and I wouldn't say that I use them all every day or even every year, but they are very useful at times. So I'm just going to run through a few of them. I'll use the cursor to try and show which one I'm talking about. So what do we have here? These are ones that I use from time to time. Trello we talked about. Forms is just for creating different surveys or whatever, or using SurveyMonkey. Zoom, everyone knows about. Ori is a app that you can use to practice your presentations on, and it will tell you if your rate of speech is good for presentations. It will tell you about filler words you're using and just try and improve the presentations that you're giving. Then these two, I put links to the AWEN timetable, which is the teaching timetable, and also a link to the attendance feedback, which is like 4 questions you fill out really quickly, but it would be really great if every time you had some teaching from the AWEN team that you give feedback each time. Seems a bit fair once someone's put time into doing a presentation that you give them a bit of feedback on it. PAEDS Central is something that Promote, the consultant who's in charge of education, PAEDS education, is working on, and it's really building into a good resource. And London School of Paediatrics has got loads of resources on there, including daily teaching, just like AWEN. At work, you have various apps that I use. Teams you can use to log into whatever meetings you have. You can look at the AWEN team on there. It's got loads of resources on there as well. Outlook is the emails. You may or may not want them on your phone. If you want to use these platforms on your phone, you will need to set up using the authenticator, which you can do through often you have to be on a work computer when you first set it up. If you go onto the intranet or whichever health board you're in, they'll have to do kind of worksheets to follow through to get that set up. This is SEL expenses. If you've gone on courses or want to claim stuff, then you can take photos through that and send them off. Kaizen, the portfolio, you can have that on your phone, so you can access it really quickly if there's just a procedure that you've done that you really quickly want to do then and there to make sure that it makes it on, otherwise we all forget. Induction is a great app which you probably know of already. I think all of the health boards in Wales are on it, where you can get phone numbers of all the places, all the wards, all the different teams in each hospital, rather than spending 10 minutes waiting for switchboards sometimes. Growth charts, you just put the dates, the ages and the date of birth in, and they'll come up with the centaurs you're on, which is useful, and probably should be doing them on every patient that we see, nearly. The BNFC, obviously really good resource. antibiotic guidance for empirical antibiotics. That one I used in Morriston, this one I've used everywhere else. You can get your pay slips through ESR, and Clinical Key and Up to Date are resources which have up to date evidence. You can use the health board subscriptions and set up your own personal one so you can have it on your phone. And the JDRCP is something set up by Manoj, which is a website which is fantastic. He's one of the PEDS international doctors, and he's, I think, a clinical fellow in Cardiff, aiming to go towards the CSER programme. He has got all the guidelines on there and loads of really useful information. Podcast wise, I mean, there's only one to go to, that's Dragon Bytes, a little bit biased there. I'm going to go through a whole load of them, which I just sometimes listen to if I'm on a commute. Don't forget the bubbles, top left there, amazing medical education resource in paediatrics, videos online, blogs, you name it, they've got it, it's fab. Otherwise, Two Peds in a Pod, Fontanelle, these are all podcasts which you can listen to while you're going along. Some about simulation, which I'm interested in, lots on paediatric emergencies, and then Yuan Frog is a GP who talks about all kinds of kind of wellness aspects and performance in paediatrics. I know these are maybe a little bit pen specific, but they're not really. All of us see paediatric emergencies, and this has got all the doses and algorithms on there. Heads is the tool that we can use to make sure we're covering everything we need to cover when talking to adolescents. The neonatal one, which I think everyone who's doing neonates has on their phone. We have the guidelines here from the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne. If you can't find the ones that in your health board, then that's a good resource. We have apps for learning, which I will need to go through. Other podcasts, all of these ones that I've written, the links are below on the notes of the slides, and they're available on Spotify. I tend to just go on Spotify when I'm starting my journey and just see what's recent. The peer network is from Wessex. They've got guidelines on everything, as do the London School of Paediatrics. 2 other resources at the top there that you can use. This is something I've found fairly recently, but these are platforms that will email you if you want, or you can just go on to find topics and papers that have been released more recently on certain aspects of research. The ones I use at the moment are Bubble Wrap. If you've got a journal club coming out and you don't know what to do, then you can see what's been released recently, and then have a chat with your supervisor or the consultant and see whether this is something. It's best to do these things on something you're interested in. That's run by Don't Forget the Bubbles. Feedly and FeedSpot are I think you can get them in apps or just on the internet, and you type in which websites, podcasts, blogs you're interested in, and they'll then tell you when there's new content being released by them. Welsh Clinical Portal is the online system used for results and letters and all that kind of thing, used by everywhere in Wales apart from Aneurin and Bevan, which has the wonderful clinical workstation. There's always been a bit of a battle between which one's better. I don't have an opinion on that, obviously. This is useful in the fact that if there's no computers available and you have Welsh Clinical Portal on your phone, you can look up results if you're in handover or whatever. Libraries are fab resources for journals that you can't get a hold of because you don't have subscriptions for books, and more recently I found out that you can actually use them they have a certain number of subscriptions to on examination. So for your paediatric exams, for your membership, you can use them. Contact either Rosemary or Siobhan, and they should be able to help you out. So now we're going to move on to talking about NWSSP, which is the single lead employer that we've now moved over to in the last, a year ago. And Ceri Haddon is one of the Paediatric Trainees who is extremely knowledgeable about this and is a good man to know about. And he's put together this amazing toolkit, which we're going to find out about, and we're going to talk in some detail now about how to start out.
Hi, my name's Kerry. I'm one of the South Wales Trainees. I also act as the representative for the Single Lead Employer Initiative, which means I generally go through a lot of the information about how we get paid, but I also have some experience in dealing with study budgets, expenses, relocation, and a little bit with Intrepid. So over the next couple of slides, I'll be taking you through how to go through your finances in the best way possible, and make sure things are happening when they should. There's a lot of information about the tax system and HMRC available online, but the most important thing you need to do is sign up for a personal tax account, and that is at www.gov.uk/personal-tax-account. This will then let you access your estimated pay for the year, and you can adjust this, and it also lets you view your tax code, underpayments and overpayments. If you need to call HMRC, the telephone number is currently 0300 200 3300. And then most importantly, it's who to contact if things are going a bit wrong or you've got some questions. To contact NWSSP, you have to do this via email, which is nwssple.cw@wales.nhs.uk. This is a shared inbox for the team dealing with paediatrics and obstetrics and gynae. They usually get back to you fairly quickly at the moment. However, if you have problems or you're not happy with the answers they're giving and need a bit of help, you can give me an email, and that's Ceri, CERI, Haddon, HADDON, @wales.nhs.uk.
I suppose the other aspect to mention here, Kerry, is that NWSSP is doing all those different aspects on the screen there, so it's not just looking after our pay. So just remember that you need to make sure you kind of are speaking or emailing the right people, otherwise you're just wasting a bit of time for yourself. So use the resources that Kerry's mentioned to us. Single lead employer was first done to the GPs a few years ago, and then us and radiology last year, and I think rolling out for everyone else this year. So it's very busy, and just make sure you keep pestering away if you're not getting the answers that you need. The other thing that Kerry's been working on is the trainee handbook, and that is going to be I think a one-stop shop for all the information for paediatric trainees on their finances. Really, I wish that it was available 5 years ago or 10 years ago when I was starting. So thanks for making that, Ceri.
So when you start as an ST1, you will get a whole load of emails from NWSSP. The main one of those that you want to look out for are your registration emails, particularly for your SEL expenses account. And it's a single expenses account that allows you to apply for travel expenses, study budget expenses, and a whole load of different things. So this is a really important account. You'll be given a new account for each hospital placement that you do, and this will be emailed automatically out to you each time. So travel expenses, generally the way this works is you will be allocated to your closest hospital to your house, and that is your base hospital. So for a lot of people, this will be, say, UHW if you live in Cardiff, but if you live in, say, Newport, it may be the Grange, or if you live out West Way, you could end up being placed as your base hospital being Swansea. This is important because your normal journey from home to your base hospital does not accrue any expense allowance. So if your journey is 5 miles to get to work from home to your base hospital, it means the first 5 miles of any journey you make to another hospital can't be claimed for. In your SEL expenses account, you will need to go through quite a lot of admin before you can start claiming. Firstly, you need to add your vehicle. Obviously, to say, is it replacing a current vehicle, or was it a new vehicle? You'll then need to upload your driving license, and that's the front and back, and make sure that you enter the information correctly into the text fields, otherwise it gets rejected. Once they have processed that, you'll need to upload a copy of your insurance documents. And once you've done that, you can then start submitting claims. So based on those, there are two different kinds of mileage you can claim. The first one is excess mileage, and that's the one where you are travelling from home to a hospital, and then business miles are then those journeys within work time. Make sure you get your claims in as quick as you can. They won't backdate claims for, say, a whole placement, so try and do them each month, and you can group them together. Personally, I've not had them asking for any receipts for these, for example, petrol receipts. However, do keep hold of them, just in case. Scanning them is a good idea, just so you've got a record. But you may well need to upload example journeys into the claim, so I usually use Google Maps for this. Take a screenshot of the route that you take, and that tells them the mileage that needs to be calculated. Obviously, you can then submit a month's recordings en masse, and you'll get paid for those, hopefully, as soon as they're approved.
So just so you can see on the screen at the bottom here, you'll have to put your insurance up there. As Ceri said, business miles are for particular journeys. I found it easier just to get business miles on my insurance, and then you know you're covered for everything, and there won't be any delays or problems or anything. It is a few extra pounds, but for me it was worth the hassle. The MOT and tax are checked automatically. In your initial email from NWSSP, then it has all the information on all the things you have to fill out. And there might be a little bit of back and forth with messages on the expenses account thing saying this is out of date, blah blah blah. Otherwise, the QR code at the bottom right here is just a link for the kind of form that you complete for excess mileage.
So an excellent example of when this is useful is when you're on, say, a community placement. The first 5 miles you can't claim, as we just established. However, if you then have to travel further to reach your individual clinics, you can claim for those. And obviously, if the hospital that you're doing that placement at is further than 5 miles away, you can claim the excess mileage. So, as an example, for a trainee who lives in Cardiff, their base is UHW, and they travel 2 miles to get to there. They are doing community at the Royal Glam, so therefore they can claim the distance from their home to the Royal Glam, call that 15 miles, minus the 2 they would normally use to get to UHW. So their claim will be for 13 miles. If they then leave the hospital after the morning session and head up to Mountain Ash for a community clinic, they can claim the full mileage from the Glamorgan to the community clinic. And then, of course, from Mountain Ash back home, but that would be minus the 2 miles at that point. However, there's some important caveats to note. Firstly, if you're travelling in work hours, for example, from a hospital to a clinic, this needs business cover on your insurance, as you're travelling within work time. Travelling from home to your hospital is commuting, and so would therefore only need the standard social, domestic, and pleasure, plus the commuting insurance, which is the standard that most insurance companies will offer straight away. The UK tax system is a little bit complicated. However, there is a handbook that will be available shortly, that will go through a lot of the detail on this. A good place to have a quick look to check if your tax is correct is the Money Saving Expert website, which is moneysavingexpert.com, and have a look for their free tax code calculator. Essentially, you put what you think your earnings will be in for the year, tell it which tax year you're in, ideally give it your tax code, and then calculate. This will then generate a full list of your tax, national insurance, and you can even add on things like student loan to work out how much you should be seeing each month in your paycheck. It's really useful just to check to make sure that you don't think there's a problem with your pay, because the last thing you want to do is end up underpaying tax for a prolonged period and result in a big bill when HMRC finally work out they've been doing it wrong all along. So the other big area for trainees is tax and finances. Tax and finance is a very complicated area, but the main takeaway is that HMRC are responsible for generating your tax code. They then send this to our employer, NWSSP, who then act on the information given to them to apply taxes and send those back to HMRC. So if there are any errors in your tax code or you think you're being taxed incorrectly, these have to be dealt with by HMRC rather than NWSSP. Study leave is dealt with a little bit differently to expenses, so you'll need to log in to Intrepid and set up your study day or date, and then you need to provide a budget that you're going to be spending. Initially it's estimated, but after the course has happened or the event has happened, you then submit the actual cost. So that will be your course fees or conference fees, and then you can also claim travel along with that. So you upload this onto Intrepid. It will then be sent over to your line manager, who will then approve it, and it comes out of your budget, which is 600 per year. Obviously, there is no difference between less than full-time trainees and full-time trainees. Everybody gets 600. And as this rolls on, you'll be able to see what's remaining of your study budget now, and you'll actually see a balance that you can keep track of, which is important because things have changed recently in that we are now allowed to roll over study budget from year to year, or unused study budget, due to COVID. We don't know when this is going to stop, but at the moment it's really good because it means that you're not losing money each year, and it actually allows you to potentially afford some of the more expensive courses that are out there. One little top tip for study is if you are in a health board that gives you a free life support course, and I'm Bevan being one of these, make use of this because that saves a huge amount of your study budget for compulsory courses.
The other little aspect just to highlight was, on the previous slide, that yes, you put your annual leave and your study leave on Intrepid, but they are the system that kind of validates it, but you won't be paid physically unless you put the do it on SEL expenses as well. So you need to do it on both, and Intrepid as well, just to say that it can be really good when you're looking back and you're ARCP to look how many study leave days you've had and if you've had any days off. Then if you keep Intrepid up to date, it's an easy way to show that information.
Thankfully now when we change placements, we no longer go through the rigmarole of having to redo all of our payroll setup. However, our expenses accounts do have to be moved as they have a tie-in to the health boards. This should happen automatically. You'll get an email from NWSSP towards the end of an attachment saying that your old account is closing down and a new one will have been made for you. Unfortunately, yes, that does mean a new login each time and you have to go back through all of the registration again. It's a little bit of a pain, but make sure it happens because you don't want to be claiming on the old expenses accounts when you should be on the new one. If you run into issues, please do contact the NWSSP expenses team, who can be reached at nwssp.expensesnw wales.nhs.uk.
They also have a specific relocation email address, hopefully not because they have so many issues on it, but this was the email that I got back when I was just asking them what happens with it. This is the QR code that will give you a link straight to the form that you should fill in if for some reason it doesn't happen automatically. Use that email for any more information. This is just another QR code to a form which I created. I have printed it out and stuck on the back of my ID badge for any time I do kind of any teaching, whether it's to nurses, to medical students, to consultants, whoever it is. It's got a feedback form on there that I can get stuff back on really quickly. It can help you improve your practice. It can show some accountability for the teaching that you're doing and how much you're doing, and it can be used to kind of upload it to your e-portfolio. You can use this, scan this QR code. I think there's either a PDF to take you through it or a short video, and you can have that made in a couple of minutes. So I think that is it for the end. This will be available as a link to watch the video maybe on YouTube, in which case you can everything will be time-stamped, so you can go to the certain area that you want to if you want to watch it back. Hannah and Patrick are available for the South Wales trainees. I have left the deanery, but I'm always happy to be contacted. Louise and Barbara are available for North Wales. And if you want to see this presentation or get all the show notes and everything, you should be able to scan this QR code and that will take you there. So you don't have to listen to it, or you can just go and try it out for yourselves. Have an amazing time training in Wales. Make use of your colleagues, all the other trainees, your consultants, ask your educational supervisor. Make sure you get out and enjoy the outdoors around Wales if you can. Loads of places to go, walking, cycling, surfing, you name it, it's available. Jock and Val from Hannah, Ceri and I, and hope to see you in the future. Bye.